Hey, how long do you expect me to provide for you? From now on, I'm going to live off your savings.
Saying this, my husband Brian confirmed that he did take early retirement without telling me anything about it beforehand. Well, I've reached my limit. I won't let this person waste my savings away. Let's get a divorce. I'm going to say this because no one else was going to say this, but as soon as I said everything, my husband turned pale.
You're joking, right?
My name is Emily. I am a 60-year-old housewife. My husband Brian and I have been married for 40 years. I started working at a bank after graduating from high school. It was there that I met my husband. My husband is 2 years older than me, and when he graduated from college, he got a job at the bank where I worked at. And we were in the same department, so we grew closer and began to go on dates. Then, 3 months after we started going out, he proposed to me and we got married. Upon marrying Brian, I became a full-time housewife. I became a housewife because my husband asked me to stay at home and take care of the house chores. I thought I wanted to work a little more. But even so, I have no regrets about becoming a full-time housewife. As a housewife, I have spent my life thinking about how to save money and be frugal. Because of that, I was able to learn a lot of skills while putting it into practice. And I learned a lot of other things as well. And there is one more thing that made me feel happy that I stayed at home and being a full-time housewife. That is because I was able to spend a lot of time with my daughter, Maya. Ever since I gave birth to my daughter, we have spent time together as a family. I think it is especially significant that I got to be there for Maya during her childhood years. I was able to see her change and grow up bit by bit. My daughter has grown up very quickly and has become a very good girl. If she needed advice on anything, she would always turn to me, and she would often tell me about things that happened at school. She would tell me about the people she liked, and she would also tell me about the boys she was dating in high school. I think the fact that I was able to gain my daughter's trust in such a way was also a crucial part for the family. But after 40 years of marriage, it's not always all the good things that happen in our family too. One of the bad things is my relationship with my husband. My husband had always been a bit of an overbearing husband, but it got worse when my daughter went off to college and started living on her own.
Hey, make coffee for me. Make sure it's drip coffee, not instant coffee.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're out of coffee filters right now.
What? Well, go buy some right now.
Huh?
And while you're at it, go buy some pastries too. Not the cheap ones from the supermarket, but the ones from the pastry store. I'm the man of this house, so you better treat me with some sincerity.
My husband would always say such things to me like this and pushed his selfishness through. When our daughter lived with us, she defended me by saying things like, "Dad, you're being too unreasonable. You should take better care of Mom." So my husband wasn't being that harsh with me when my daughter was living with us. However, after my daughter started living on her own, I guess he began to lose self-control. He treated me as if I were his maid. As a housewife, I was home all the time. And when my husband came home from work or spent all day with me on weekends, I became more and more stressed. After more than 20 years of marriage, I could not take it anymore and thought about getting a divorce from Brian. So one time, I made up my mind to request Brian for a divorce. But I couldn't go through with it after all.
How will you, a housewife, make a living from now on? And how are you going to pay for Maya's college tuition? She's an adult now, so there's no need for me to pay for her, and I'm not obligated to pay for her tuition either, right?
What?
If you're willing to pay for our daughter's tuition while also taking responsibility for your own life, then fine, we can get a divorce.
I was surprised to hear my husband say such a thing. I instantly felt uneasy. I could never do that, and I couldn't let my daughter drop out of college. So I decided to give up on the divorce then. Mom, I'm sorry. I put you through so much. It's all because of me. Oh, it's okay. Maya, honey, you didn't do anything wrong. It's my fault for not being prepared for a situation like this, so that's why I've decided that I'll work. Of course, I have to take care of the house chores, so I decided that I'll work part-time, work the hours like a full-time employee as much as possible. I see, but don't push yourself too hard, okay? Yeah, thank you, honey. And I started working at a bank teller's office. I get to work 5 days per week from 9 a.m. to 16 p.m. I can balance my work with my house chores without any major issues. My husband was against it, but I did my best to make myself go through with it. Going out into the world and working again has been quite positive for me. First of all, I can now afford to be financially comfortable, and I have more opportunities to communicate with people other than my husband, which has helped me mentally calm down. I was earning roughly $2,200 a month, but I decided to put $200 into the family budget to cover only for food expenses, use about $200 as my own allowance, and save the remaining $800. My husband made fun of me for not using much makeup on and not buying new clothes, and I didn't care and focused on saving money. Someday, I would leave my husband and become independent. When I made up my mind to do so, I was able to focus to do my best. And my daughter came home regularly and took care of me. Thanks to that, I was able to live a much easier life mentally than in the past. Then my daughter graduated from college and got a job. She started working hard as a company employee. When I see my daughter in a suit, I'm deeply moved by the fact that she has become an adult. My daughter became a respectable member of the society, and a few years after she became a company employee, she was promoted in her department. Seeing her devote herself to her work inspired me as well. During that time, my husband remained the same, making fun of me and my personality and spending money carelessly on things even more compared to before. And to make matters worse, he started drinking a lot.
Hey, there's no beer here.
You are drinking too much. It's not good for your health.
Shut up. You shouldn't care what I buy with my money. Just shut up and go buy some beer.
My husband's drinking increased over the years. Honestly, he drank so much. We had never spent that much on food before, but since my husband's drinking increased tremendously, our food costs became much higher. I tried to get creative at cooking as much as I could, but it was still very difficult because it put a lot of pressure on the family budget. Even so, I would not reduce the amount of my savings. I made up my mind to do so and worked hard to save money. And so I worked hard, year after year. I realized that it had been almost 18 years since I started working part-time. That meant that I had been married to my husband for almost 40 years. Then, my husband suddenly said something outrageous.
I quit my job.
What? What do you mean?
I took early retirement.
Why? Why would you do that? My husband is only 62 years old. He has 3 years left before he can retire from his company. I can't stand the thought of my husband being home all the time so soon. When I asked him that question, to my surprise, he became grumpy.
What? You don't like it?
I didn't say that.
I can see it on your face, you know.
My husband got annoyed and started to lash out at me.
Hey, how long do you expect me to provide for you?
Huh?
You've been living on my earnings until now. So now, it's my turn, right? I know you've saved a good amount of money from your part-time job. From now on, I'm going to live off your savings.
Saying this, my husband Brian confirmed that he did take early retirement without telling me anything about it beforehand. Well, I've reached my limit. I won't let this person waste my savings away. Let's get a divorce.
Huh? Divorce?
I can't keep on doing this with you anymore.
You're pretending to be a tragic heroine again, saying you can't stand this kind of life. You asked for a divorce quite a while ago, didn't you? But at that time you gave up, because you wouldn't know how to live on your own after we got a divorce. And that hasn't changed, has it? If we divorce now, you won't have any money for your retirement. Then it would be safer for you to live with me and do all the housework, wouldn't it? You'll be my slave for the rest of your life.
He is such a jerk. My husband is going to use me around until I die. I'm going to get away from this man for sure. I took a deep breath and made up my mind. Then I took out the divorce papers from the drawer and confronted my husband. My feelings have not changed. Let's get a divorce. My husband was surprised how firm I was, and he flinched a little.
Are you serious? If you divorce me, you will be much poorer than you are now, you know.
That won't happen.
Huh?
I'm going to tell you because no one else will. But I have tens and thousands of dollars in assets from stock investments. As soon as I said that, my husband turned pale.
You're joking, right? You're investing in stocks?
I'm not lying. I showed him the balance in my bank book.
No way. You really do have tens and thousands of dollars.
My husband was at a loss of words that I had far more assets than he did. So now you know, I have no trouble leaving you. You, on the other hand, would be in trouble because you wouldn't have anyone to do the housework without me.
Well, then I'm not divorcing you. You're going to stay married to me for the rest of your life.
I knew that's what Brian would say, but I had taken measures for when this was going to happen. I'm sorry, but I'm definitely going to divorce you, so you'll have to give up. I have recorded and kept a diary of every horrible things you've ever done, and every rude, terrible things that you've said to me. I have given them all to my lawyer. My lawyer said I can get a divorce on the grounds of harassment, and I can claim for compensation.
Huh? Compensation? Now wait a minute. You've got to be kidding me. I ain't paying no compensation.
You have no right to veto it. No matter how much you scream or shout and make a fuss, divorce and compensation are absolute.
Shut up. You're my slave. Don't disobey your master.
My husband was yelling at me like that, but I didn't care and started packing up my stuff. I'm getting out of here anyway. Let's discuss divorce through our lawyers. My husband was trembling with anger, but he couldn't move from the spot and just glared at me because he couldn't handle what was happening right in front of his eyes. I then grabbed my stuff and immediately went to my daughter's house. My daughter had been married once, but divorced due to her ex-husband's affair, and was now working as a single mother, raising a cute little boy. Maya was a career woman, and she was making a lot of money, so she had plenty of rooms, and she had no problem at all with me moving in. I had told my daughter for some time that I was thinking of getting a divorce, and she had helped me with a lot of things. My daughter also taught me how to invest in stocks about 10 years ago as well. Without my daughter, I would not have been able to acquire so many assets. About a week later, I decided to talk to my husband about divorce and compensation with my lawyer. The discussion proceeded at a cafe near the house, where I used to live with Brian. My husband easily agreed to the divorce. For some reason, he was even full of smiles. I was relieved that he agreed to the divorce and signed the divorce papers. Now I am able to completely cut ties with this man. However, my husband said this with a victorious look on his face.
I'll pay you compensation too. But as a married couple, we have to divide our assets, so I'm entitled to half of the assets you've saved. I know you thought you beat me, but I'm sorry. The money you worked so hard to save is half mine.
My husband laughed so hard, and to this I couldn't help but laugh out loud.
What the? What are you laughing at? Are you crazy because you lost so much money all at once?
My husband asked me in an irritated way. No, I am not. It was about 20 years ago, so you must have forgotten. Don't you remember when I initiated the divorce a long time ago?
And?
I promised you that if I ever asked for a divorce again, there would be no division of property. We even notarized it and made it clear that in the event of a divorce, we would have no claim to each other's property. As long as I have this, I don't have to give you any of my savings when we divorce.
No way!
My husband's face suddenly turned pale. Well, in exchange, I can't get half of your retirement money either. But I'm glad we have this deed, because if we had divided the property, I would have clearly lost more than you. And thank you for signing the divorce papers. Like this, we are complete strangers now. Now you can forget about me and go on with your life. Oh, and since you're the one in trouble, I'll pay for the coffee here. Please, take your time. With that, I left the cafe with my lawyer, leaving my husband in a state of shock. The moment we left the cafe, I felt very refreshed, knowing that this was all over. When I returned home, Maya said, "Good job," to me, after seeing how refreshed I was with smiles on my face. "Now you're free, Mom. Shall we go out to a restaurant to celebrate?" That sounds good. We went to an Italian restaurant with my daughter and grandson to celebrate. After that, I continued to work part-time, as usual, at a bank teller's office, while continuing to manage my assets in stocks. This way, I don't have to worry about my retirement at all, and I will be able to leave my assets to my daughter and my grandson. And as for my ex-husband, according to what I heard from his relatives, his addiction to drinks got worse and worse, and he drank a lot every single day, which destroyed his health in the end. He is now forced to spend time in hospital, and his savings are disappearing quickly due to getting treatments and going to rehabs at the hospital. My ex-husband, who never saved any money in the first place, only has retirement money. But that retirement money is also decreasing rapidly. So, it is no longer enough to cover his future lifestyle, apparently. Well, it's none of my business anymore, and he got what he deserves. In comparison to my ex-husband, I'm going to spend happy, peaceful times with my daughter and my grandson while living a nice life. Emily's husband is crazy if he thinks that his wife is his slave. I think Emily has done a great job in a really difficult situation. From now on, I hope you will live happily in old age, surrounded by your wonderful family. Thank you for watching until the end. Please subscribe to our channel. See you in the next video.
Cheating husband becomes paralyzed. Take care of me. Write, pointing arrow, divorce, filed against defiant husband and in-laws.
Taking care of Kate is your job.
Huh? I'll do it, but shouldn't you help out too?
You are both girls, so you should be the one to do it. I'm busy with work and don't have the time.
But I think Kate will feel lonely. I am Hannah, a 33-year-old working mother. I lead a busy life, juggling work and home responsibilities every day. My husband Tony and I first met at the company we both worked for, where he was my supervisor. Our relationship developed unexpectedly, and we got married 3 years ago. He's actually divorced and has a child named Kate, who is currently in her final year of elementary school. I knew about her before our marriage, and I made sure to get her approval before we got married, gradually building our relationship. At first, I worried about whether she would like me and if I could handle being a stepmother to an elementary schooler. But Kate quickly became attached to me. I don't know the details of how Tony gained custody, but I think there must have been some issue between him and his ex-wife. I felt that Kate was craving a mother figure. Since Tony didn't like to talk about it, I didn't ask him about it either. But I vowed to my best not to make her feel lonely and went ahead with the marriage. After getting married, I continued to work while also taking care of Kate. I switched to a part-time schedule to avoid making her feel lonely, helping her with homework and providing advice for her adolescent issues. Although I'm still far from being a true mother figure, Kate and I have deepened our bond as sisters. However, my relationship with Tony gradually grew cold. After our marriage, he didn't take care of Kate at all, and our life together wasn't what I had imagined. He never cooked or even talked to her. So I asked her how they managed before I came into the picture. She said she did most of the housework, and when Tony couldn't cook, he would leave money on the table for her to buy food from the convenience store. I was surprised because I thought he took good care of her based on what he told me before we got married. I thought maybe this is just how single fathers are, and I decided to do my best to take care of Kate as a mother figure without making her feel deprived. But Tony never showed any appreciation for my efforts, and he left all of Kate's care to me while he became increasingly busy with work, staying out late and going on business trips. Our conversations dwindled, and now, 3 years later, we barely talk at all. Amidst all of this, Kate's elementary school graduation is approaching. I told Tony about the graduation ceremony weeks in advance, but at the last minute, he announced he had a business trip scheduled for that day.
I'll be on a business trip, so gotta go by yourself.
I was surprised and replied, "A business trip? It's Kate's graduation. It's so important. Can you ask someone to cover for you?" But he decided to go on the trip, saying it is for work. The next day, I told Kate about this, and she replied with a resigned okay. On the day of the graduation ceremony, I went alone. My relationship with Kate was still short at 3 years, but I was so moved that my eyes turned red by the end of the ceremony. She teased me about it, and we laughed together on our way home. That night, since Tony wasn't coming back from his trip, I made Kate's favorite fried chicken, and we spent a relaxing evening together. At around 10 p.m., just as I was thinking about going to bed, I received a call from an unknown number. "Hello?" When I answered, it turned out to be a call from a hospital. "Your husband and his companion have been in a serious car accident. Can you come to the hospital right away?" My mind went blank in an instant. I frantically asked for the hospital's location, and they said Tony, who was supposed to be on a business trip in San Francisco, was in a hospital in Napa. Confused, but knowing that it was within taxi distance, I left Katie with my in-laws and headed for the hospital. During the taxi ride, my mind raced with questions. Why was he in Napa? Who was the companion? How severe was the injuries? Upon arriving at the hospital, I saw Tony lying in a bed in the intensive care unit, and in the next bed, the receptionist from our company whom I recognized. In an instant, I understood the situation. He had been having an affair. I had never suspected him of cheating before, so I was stunned by the shock. There was no other explanation for the situation. He had lied to me about the business trip, and actually was on a getaway with his lover. All his previous claims about working late and going on business trips were probably lies. Since both Tony and the woman were unconscious, I decided to wait until they woke up and could talk. It took about a week for their unconsciousness to return, and during that time, the doctor informed me that Tony had become hemiplegic due to the after effects of the accident, and the woman had sustained a large scar on her face. While both of them were seriously injured, I felt no sympathy. I thought this was the price they had to pay for betraying me. A few more weeks passed, and they were finally moved to a general ward, where I could have a proper conversation with them. I decided to confront Tony about the affair. "Were you having an affair? That woman is the receptionist from our company, right?" To my surprise, he denied it.
No, it's not like that.
I was expecting him to admit to the affair and apologize, so his reaction was startling. "Wait, then why were you in Napa? You said you were going on a business trip to San Francisco," he replied.
Did I? I don't remember. I must have said so by mistake, I guess.
Of course. I couldn't accept the explanation. "So why were you with the receptionist? There was no need to bring her on a business trip." "Right," he smoothly replied, as if he had prepared an excuse.
It was just a coincidence. When I went to Napa for a trip, she happened to be there too, so we decided to have dinner together. Then the taxi we were in on the way back got into an accident."
His explanation was quite far-fetched. However, I had no evidence to call it a lie, nor did I have any proof that he was cheating. No matter how much I pressed him about the affair, he refused to admit it, and instead seemed to be doubling down on his denial. I was dumbfounded. He must know that his excuse is hard to believe. However, he won't admit to anything unless there is evidence. Frustrated, I told him, "If you won't tell me the truth, I can't continue our marriage." "I thought I would consider it if you admitted and apologized." I told him that I was prepared for a divorce. Then his face turned angry.
You are a heartless woman. Or are you planning to abandon your husband now that he is paralyzed?
He attacked me as if I were a bad guy. I couldn't say anything and just stood there. He continued,
"I'll tell everyone at work. They will all look down on you when they find out what a terrible person you are."
It seemed like he was threatening me, and I thought that if I insisted on a divorce now, it would put me at a disadvantage. So I decided to hold off the divorce for the time being. I could gather evidence of his affair and then confront him with it. Since I no longer had any love for him, I decided to continue our marriage as a preparation period to secure favorable divorce terms.
"All right,
You really weren't cheating." "I believe you," he smirked and said.
You're my wife, so take care of me for the rest of your life."
I shuddered at his smug expression. I had to gather evidence as soon as possible and finalize the divorce, or I would be forced to take care of this man for the rest of my life. With these thoughts, I brought him home after he was discharged from the hospital, and our life of reluctantly providing care began. He is still in rehabilitation, so he is considered on a leave of absence. Our company has good welfare benefits, so they are letting him take a leave of absence without firing him, allowing him to return once he's recovered. On the other hand, the woman he was with had some scars on her face, but no lasting after effects, and she has already been discharged from the hospital and returned to work. She is working as if nothing had happened regarding her alleged affair with him. I see her every day when I go to the office, and she greets me with a cheerful smile without showing any remorse. Both of them continue to deny the affair and maintain that their meeting was a coincidence, and they just happened to be in the accident together. When I see her enjoying herself without any care, anger wells up inside me, but I hold it in. Once I gather evidence, I can divorce him and hold her accountable as well. Until then, I have no choice but to endure. Although I have decided to divorce him, I am worried about Kate. Her father, Tony, is now paralyzed on one side of his body. He can't take a bath or go to the toilet without assistance. It's difficult for him to cook and do laundry on his own since he is basically living in a wheelchair. If I divorce him, Kate will have to take care of him. I can't let my precious daughter do that. To prevent that, I decided to ask my in-laws to help with caregiving as soon as possible. I was hesitant to ask the elderly couple to take care of Tony, but they love him dearly and were willing to help. I thought that with their help, Kate's burden would be significantly reduced. Although they knew the circumstances behind Tony's severe injury, they believed his explanation and thought that he had no relationship with the woman and that it was just a business trip. Naturally, they didn't express gratitude for my caregiving and instead complained about how I was doing it wrong. I was exhausted every day from work, caregiving, and taking care of Kate. This lifestyle continued for half a year. During that time, I had been gathering evidence of Tony's affair, but the two of them were cautious and didn't leave any traces. Even when I secretly checked his phone, there were no conversations left. None of his colleagues at work knew about their affair, and I was at a loss. Just when I began to think that maybe he wasn't having an affair after all, I received a call from a certain person. After hearing that person's story, the situation changed dramatically. From there, his lies unraveled one after another. After gathering all the evidence, I decided to have a talk with Tony and my in-laws. I have something to discuss, Tony. I'd like your parents to listen as well. When I started the conversation, he looked annoyed and said, "What? I'm not feeling well, so I'd like to finish this quickly. It's so inconvenient with this body. Your caregiving isn't great either." He never forgot to make sarcastic comments like that to me. But today, I didn't care about such remarks. "Please, divorce me," I said, thrusting the divorce papers at him. He laughed and said, "As I told you, if you divorce me now, you'll be the worst wife who abandoned her paralyzed husband. Are you okay with having that label? Everyone at work will despise you." He spat out that line as if he thought it would make me change my mind. But things wouldn't go as he said. I had invited a certain person for this day. "Mandy, please come in." The person who entered the living room was his ex-wife, Mandy. She was the one who had contacted me a few weeks before. Apparently, she had asked Kate for my contact information and had reached out to me to share some crucial information. She told me everything. "It seems you were cheating on her with that woman, even while you were married to her. You've been continuing the relationship, haven't you?" I said. And his face, as well as his parents, turned pale, and they fell silent. What I heard from Mandy was that Tony had cheated on her with that woman even during his previous marriage. Mandy confronted him and pushed for divorce, but he refused. She wanted to divorce him but couldn't, and he even began to mentally abuse her, causing her mental health to deteriorate. While she was recuperating at her parents' house, he filed for divorce on his own and took custody of Kate, citing Mandy's mental state. Mandy had been begging Tony to return Kate to her, but he thought being a single father would make him more attractive, so he treated her like an accessory and refused to let her go. And I was deceived by him and ended up marrying him. Of course, his relationship with that woman continued even after our marriage, and I was living a married life without knowing anything. Mandy's mental state improved after the divorce, and she now lives a normal life without any issues. She had been investigating his downfall to get Kate back from him. She had several photos proving his ongoing relationship with that receptionist and gave them to me. I got hold of those photos as evidence, so I decided to confront him about the divorce today. These photos are the evidence. Mandy took them. At this, he angrily turned red and snapped at Mandy.
Are you meddling? Are you stalking me? Do you still have feelings for me? You're disgusting.
She calmly replied. I just want Kate back. You're too busy playing with this woman and not taking care of Kate at all. Please return her to me quickly. But he refused, saying,
I won't let her go. Having her around raises my reputation at work and makes me more attractive to women.
I asked him, then why did you marry me? If you want to be popular with women, you don't need to get married. He then spewed out the most despicable words.
You are a housekeeper. I just wanted you to do housework and take care of Kate. That way, I'm free, and I can play with her too. She doesn't like kids, so she won't play with me if I have a child.
I was speechless at his utterly disgusting thoughts, as I didn't think he could be such a low person. Mandy and I looked at him with contempt, and his parents anxiously said,
Don't blame Tony. He's currently half paralyzed. It's terrible to gang up on him.
When his mother said this, Mandy looked at her coldly and said, You knew about his affairs too. You defended him even though you knew. You are also responsible for driving me to the edge mentally. In fact, his parents knew about his infidelity. They had been protecting him while keeping silent about his affair with the same woman during both Mandy's and my marriages. I have heard this from Mandy, so I called them here today. After talking up to that point, I pushed the divorce papers at Tony again. You'll divorce me, right? You were the one who cheated, and you married me intending to use me. I'll make you pay a lot of consolation money. He hung his head and didn't say anything. There is no way he can deny it with the photos as evidence. I made him sign the divorce papers and left his parents' house with Mandy. He and his parents reluctantly agreed to the divorce and tried to reconcile us, but I had no intention of doing so. On our way out, I told his parents, Please take care of your precious son for the rest of your lives. They looked at me with despair, but it was their own doing. I felt relieved after saying what I wanted to say. After that, Mandy was able to regain custody of Kate through the proper legal procedures. I am grateful that Kate gave Mandy my contact information at that time. And even now, I occasionally maintain a friendly relationship with Kate as a neighborly older sister figure. Mandy looks happy and lively now that she has Kate back in her life. On the other hand, my divorce with Tony was finalized. I was able to claim and receive a lump sum payment for alimony for both him and his mistress. It was revealed to his company that he had been having an affair, which led to the dismissal of the woman. Tony, who had been on leave at the time, had falsely claimed to be on a business trip while going on a vacation with the female employee, which led him to being forced to resign voluntarily, eventually leaving his job. I have continued to work at the same company ever since. My colleagues have all sympathized with me and encouraged me. Having had enough of men for now, I plan to focus on my work for a while. Next time, I want to work on improving myself so that I can meet a sincere man.
My cheating husband, who doesn't care about the family, ended up losing everything when he thought he would.
Why? What's going on here?
My husband spoke to my father with a surprised expression that I had never seen before.
I said exactly what I meant. And as if for you, Mike, it's time for you to leave the company.
I was watching this chaotic situation with a feeling that all the struggles I had gone through were finally paying off. My name is Rebecca, a 35-year-old housewife. I have a 12-year-old daughter named Pearl, who is going through a sensitive phase right now. Although we sometimes clash, we also have many moments when she helps with household chores and our parent-child relationship is good. I was born to my parents, who owned a small trading company. After graduating from high school and junior college, I started working at an advertising agency. I intended to take over my parents' company someday, but I deliberately chose a general company to gain work experience first. I met my husband Mike at a group blind date. He was bright, talkative, and always cheered everyone up. I was rather shy and was attracted to his charm that I didn't have. Moreover, he was highly educated, graduated from a famous university, and was an elite businessman at a famous company at that time. I was swept off my feet by his intense approach, and we got married without any trouble. After we got married, he became the executive officer to take over my father's company, and I supported our family at home. The company was doing well, and he was expected to become the president eventually. However, things changed around the time when our daughter Pearl was born. It was my first time raising a child. I was busy taking care of her day and night. The days without sleep continued when she started to cry at night. My husband was cold to me as I struggled every day to take care of my daughter, with dark circles under my eyes.
What's with that horrible look on your face? You were already finished as a woman.
One day, I became furious at my husband's heartless remark, and we got into an argument. You could at least participate a little. You don't help at all. Just saying you have work every day.
That's because I'm being used by someone's father, isn't it? Don't blame others, you fatso.
I was about to throw the bowl I had in my hand at my husband, but I snapped out of it when Pearl started crying. After this argument, my relationship with my husband became increasingly strained. Instead of helping with household chores and childcare, he started leaving the house for work more and more often. I had a vague feeling that it wasn't really work he was going to. The reason I didn't divorce him at the time was solely for my daughter's sake. I also didn't want to worry my parents. When my husband was at home, he always locked himself in his room and never came out. In addition, he started harassing me at some point.
Here, this is the monthly living expenses.
My husband handed me only $600 and said calmly with a mean smile in response to my angry reaction. What? You expect me to live on this for a month?
You're not working, so try to manage with this.
With a child, we couldn't even cover our food expenses with just this much. I managed to get by with the savings I had accumulated during my single days. Such situations continued frequently, but my husband was only good on the surface. He always acted like a good employee and husband in front of my parents and other colleagues. One day, at my wit's end, I tried to talk to my parents about my husband, but he always showed a kind and reliable side in front of them, so they didn't believe me. In fact, they ended up scolding me, saying that maybe I wasn't trying hard enough. I struggled with housework and child rearing in isolation. By the time Pearl became an elementary school student, I started helping my parents' company. However, the work was extremely hard. My husband always went out saying he was on a business trip and left me alone to do his share of the work. I worked hard without complaining for my daughter's sake and to avoid worrying my parents. As time passed and Pearl became a middle school student, a small conflict arose in our home. Pearl had finally witnessed my husband's infidelity. I had already been disappointed in my husband for quite some time and had noticed the presence of the other woman here and there. However, I couldn't be sure because of my concern for my daughter, and I had always let it go. But one day, Pearl saw her father walking with another woman in the shopping mall. When she came home, she immediately asked her father, "Dad, who is that person?" "The woman you were walking with in the mall," my husband answered without showing any remorse.
She's one of my friends.
"Really? Is she really just a friend?" And my husband suddenly raised his voice.
If I say she is my friend, then she's my friend. Don't you interfere in adults' affairs.
When my husband slammed his hand on the table, our daughter flinched. "Mom, please don't wash Dad's clothes with mine," my daughter said to me before going to her room.
I'm going to be the president of this company. It's natural to have one or two women.
I was dumbfounded by my husband's frank admission of infidelity. From that day on, the number of times I had to run the washing machines increased, even though I was already busy. In the midst of this, it was decided that the company's 20th anniversary events would be held. My husband continued to be absent from home, citing work. He even ordered me like this.
You're going to be in charge of this anniversary event. Got it? If you embarrass me, I won't tolerate it.
He pushed all the responsibility for organizing the anniversary event onto me. My workload became even more difficult than before. Fortunately, the staff helped me, but I still had to work until late at night every day. One day, I finished work as usual and started doing housework. As I was about to sit down to eat dinner with my daughter, everything went blank. When I came to, I was lying in a hospital bed. My body had finally given out. My parents and my daughter and parents looked at me with concern. "Mom, are you okay? The doctor said it's overwork. I can't get Dad on the phone. I've called him dozens of times already." "I see. Maybe your dad must be busy." Just then, a phone call came in from my husband.
What are you slacking off for? What are you going to do if it affects the event? Can you take responsibility for taking time off, huh?
He berated me and then abruptly hung up the phone. I didn't feel anything anymore. He was just a stranger hiding behind a husband's mask. Then I realized tears were streaming down my face. My daughter noticed and asked, "Mom, what's wrong? Did Dad say something terrible again?" Seeing the worried look of me and my daughter, my parents asked,
"Rebecca, what's going on?"
I didn't feel the need to hide anything and told my parents everything that had been going on for years. That my husband has been neglecting our family, not doing his job. and being cruel to my daughter. And nobody understands my pain. My parents listened quietly until I finished. Then they apologized to me.
I'm sorry, Rebecca. I didn't realize you were suffering that much. Please tell us anything you need from now on, okay? We'll always be on your side.
My father continued.
The event is also ready to go. We can leave the rest of the other stuff.
I decided to take my parents' words, and at the same time, I made up my mind to settle things with my husband for his mistreatment of me. I hired a private detective, and evidence of my husband's infidelity was quickly found. Furthermore, it was revealed that his business trips, which he claimed were for work, were actually just an excuse. Through his patterns of behavior and receipts, we were able to gather a large amount of solid evidence. I also consulted a lawyer and made sure to understand the maximum amount of compensation I could receive. I planned to demand compensation for not only his affair, but also the damages he caused to his company with his fake business trips. I showed all the evidence I had collected to my parents. After they were shocked, they became furious.
He deserves to pay for what he's done.
I decided to fight my husband for divorce, but my father told me something as the event was approaching next week.
Rebecca, I understand that you want to divorce him as soon as possible. However, please bear with me a little. I have an idea.
So, I decided to trust my father and leave it to him. The day of the anniversary event arrived. We welcomed many guests from various places, and it became a grand event. There was even the appearance of the mayor. In such a glamorous setting, my husband was very proud, even though he hadn't done anything himself. After the greetings were over, the reception-style dinner began. I was with my daughter at my parents' table. Then, my husband came over boldly and said to my father with great pride,
How do you like the party I organized? Ah, it's quite something. This party is special, and it's our 20th anniversary, so it has to be exceptional. Sure, leave it to me.
Upon hearing my husband brown-nosing my father, my daughter chimed in. Dad, that's all a lie. You didn't do anything. Mom did. Grandpa, he also has a crush on someone else, you know? I saw him with a woman at the mall, and it wasn't Mom. My husband glared at his daughter and said in a low voice,
Pearl, didn't I tell you before? Don't meddle in grown-up affairs.
With a smirk, he returned to my father and said,
No worries, sir. It's just childish talk. Anyway, about my promotion to CEO. Oh, yes, that? Sure. Wait for the announcement of the new personnel changes after this.
My father, not to be outdone by his son-in-law, also had a creepy smile on his face. It was a pretty strange sight. And as the party entered its final phase, it was finally time for the announcement of the personnel changes by the current president, who happened to be my father, while my husband awaited the announcement with a glass of wine in hand, looking quite pleased with himself. My family and I stared at him as if he were a bitter pill to swallow. He no longer seemed like family to us. Then my father began his speech.
Thank you all for coming to our company's 20th anniversary celebration, despite your busy schedules. Today, I, William Tucker, have decided to retire as president and pass on the torch to my successor.
The room felt silent, waiting for my father's words to sink in. My husband's face was already beaming with a smile. eagerly waiting for the announcement.
I hereby appoint my daughter Rebecca as the new president.
The room erupted into loud applause after the announcement, and I could see the shock and disbelief on my husband's face as he stood there with his mouth hanging open. The party ended without incident, and as we started clearing up, my husband ran over to my father.
Why? What's going on here? I said exactly what I meant. And as if for you, Mike, it's time for you to leave the company.
What? How could this... Why?
You know the reasons better than anyone else.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
This must be Rebecca's doing, isn't it?
He glared at me as he spoke.
Did you say something to your father about this?
What? No, I haven't done anything. I simply told my parents the truth. Then I scattered the documents I had in my hand on the floor. There were numerous photos of my husband's affair and evidence of his fake business trips. My husband's face turned pale as he saw them.
How could you get these? When did you...
While you were away on your business trip, of course. I've gathered all the evidence your infidelity and fake trips, so you can't deny it. Then my father picked up the evidence photos and spoke.
Well, this is how it is. We'll make sure to charge interest on the expense claims for your fake business trips. And as for the cost of your affair, you pay my daughter back. That's for sure.
Wait a minute! Damn it! Rebecca, you...
My husband tried to hit me, but a passing guest accidentally tripped him and he fell hard on the floor.
You'll pay for this. Both of you.
Sure. We won't be seeing you anymore anyway. Please contact our lawyer from now on. With that, I handed my husband a business card for a law firm. The security guards, alerted by the commotion, then restrained him and escorted him out of the venue. A few months later, I successfully divorced my husband. After being kicked out of the house, my ex-husband struggled to find a new job. On top of that, he was burdened with a hefty settlement fee. However, I no longer had any connection to his difficulties, as long as he paid me the settlements as agreed. As for myself, I took over my father's company and have been steadily growing its business. My daughter, who has not suffered any damage from the divorce, enjoying a happy student life. To her, it was as if she had never had father in the first place. Mom, when I grow up, I will be a good enough person to be entrusted with this company. She said something so heartwarming. And there was one more happy event for me. I received a second marriage proposal in my life. The person was the one who tripped my ex-husband when he tried to attack me. His name was Hector, and he was the president of one of our company's clients. He was also a divorcee, and we hit it off. As we watched my husband being taken away by the security guard, he said,
A great party was almost ruined by him. It's a good thing that this commotion happened after the party.
Yes, he was really a terrible husband. He cheated, took fake business trips, and, as if I had relieved my burden, I somehow blurted out my life story to Hector.
Sounds like you've been through a lot, but looking at your daughter, it's all worth it. You are a good wife and a good mother.
Listening to our conversation, our daughter smiled happily. A few days later, he and our family ran into each other at a nearby cafe. We decided to have coffee together and had a great time with the three of us. That led to us having meals together. Even when my daughter wasn't with us, I realized how great he was each time we spent time together. The cause of his divorce was of his ex-wife's extravagant spending. We had been friends for a while, but one day he said to me,
I'd like to get to know each other better, if that's okay with you. Would you consider officially dating me? Oh, of course. I mean, if I can get Pearl's permission.
My daughter, who was beside us, immediately answered, Of course. That's a no-brainer. And things went smoothly like that, and we got married for the second time. Our married life is wonderful. My daughter no longer got angry when I washed the laundry altogether. Hector seemed to be fulfilling every wish that my daughter had, and she began to feel as if she was his daughter from the beginning. Mom, Dad, I want a baby sister. Given my age, it would be difficult to get pregnant. So, we decided to adopt a kitten as a solution. My daughter fell in love with a kitten at an animal shelter adoption event. We named her Cleo, and my daughter took care of her as if she were a real sister. I think I finally have a real family. Let's do our best to nurture this family with my beloved husband and the kitten. That's what I vowed in my heart.
My husband's unexpected car accident en route to our daughter's wedding reveals the truth about his infidelity.
I'm sorry I got into an accident. I don't think I can make it to Ellie's wedding. Could you please give my regards to Ellie?
When my husband, who was on his way to the wedding, said this to me over the phone, I happily responded like this. That's great. I didn't want you to come anyway. My name is Claire. I am a 50-year-old housewife. This year marks the 25th anniversary of my marriage to my husband, Jaden. We've been through a lot, but somehow I'm amazed that we've been able to stay married for 25 years. It makes me feel sentimental. However, I never expected something like this to happen in the year of our 25th anniversary.
Mom, it's been a while.
Oh, Ellie, it's so good to see you.
Yes, I brought your favorite cookies, Mom.
Wow, thank you. I'll make some tea right away. The person speaking now is Ellie, my daughter. Ellie is currently 25 years old. In fact, my husband and I had what is known as a shotgun wedding, and Ellie was born in the same year as our marriage. She graduated from university and has been working at a company for 3 years. She now lives on her own and seems to be working hard as a professional. I used to feel lonely when my only daughter became independent, but I'm happy because she comes back regularly like this. How are things going with work?
Yeah, I'm doing my best.
And what about your regular meals? Are you eating nutritious food?
I'm fine, Mom. I've been really into cooking lately. I even take cooking classes.
As she said that, my daughter showed me pictures of the dishes she made. Wow, that's amazing. You have proper side dishes and the soup looks delicious too.
I wonder if I can become a good wife.
You'll definitely become one if you can make all this. As I said that, my daughter blushed. Wait, could it be?
Yes, actually, I'm getting married.
Really? Congratulations! I was surprised by the sudden news of her marriage, but I was incredibly happy. Is it the person you've been dating from work?
Yes, he recently proposed to me.
I see, that's wonderful. My daughter had a look of happiness on her face. Seeing her like that made me happy too. So I'll finally get to meet your boyfriend, huh?
Yeah, he seems nervous about coming over to introduce himself.
Oh, really?
He seems nervous about meeting Dad.
Oh, but there's nothing to be scared of.
That's true. I'm saying that, but I guess it's natural for guys to feel nervous about meeting their partner's father.
I see. That makes sense. My daughter and I were laughing while having that conversation. My husband doesn't have a tough appearance, and he's not particularly imposing, as he's often outmatched by me and our daughter in arguments. However, he has always worked hard, and thanks to that, I've been able to be a full-time housewife even now. I'm grateful to him for that. He's generally a kind person, so there's nothing to be afraid of. When my husband came home from work, my daughter also shared the news of her marriage with him.
What? Ellie's getting married?
Yeah, I'll introduce my fiance next time.
I see. It feels a bit nerve-wracking.
Even you're saying that, huh?
Huh?
Ellie's fiance is also nervous, you know.
I see. Well, from a guy's perspective, meeting the partner's father is nerve-wracking.
Upon hearing my husband's words, my daughter and I couldn't help but laugh.
Birds of a feather! Both of you might get along well.
My daughter said that while we were having dinner together. About a week later, on a day off, my daughter brought her fiance over.
Nice to meet you. I'm Leo.
Nice to meet you. I'm Ellie's mother, and this is her father. The fiance my daughter brought was a very refreshing person.
Leo was my senior and my mentor at work. He's really capable and reliable. He always helped me with my mistakes.
Oh no, Ellie hardly made any mistakes. She always supported me in my work. She learns quickly, and I respect her for that. When I was in my 3rd year, I couldn't handle the job as well as she does now.
Leo's words praising my daughter made me very happy. My daughter blushed with embarrassment at the compliments. My husband seemed to think that Leo was a trustworthy person and felt relieved.
Please, take care of Ellie.
My husband bowed his head as he said that, and I followed suit. The introduction and discussion about the marriage proceeded in a friendly atmosphere. We even ordered pizza delivery midway and started a fun party with drinks. Leo seemed to have a strong tolerance for alcohol and enjoyed whiskey. Since I also liked whiskey, I enjoyed drinking until the end. Since my daughter and husband are not good with alcohol, they stopped drinking at a suitable point, and Ellie, who was slightly taken aback by seeing me and Leo continue drinking, makes various snacks for me, knowing that I enjoy alcohol. I think it's wonderful that she has such a lovely domestic side.
Hey, Leo, are you getting drunk? You don't have to praise me that much, you know.
My daughter's face turned red, not from the alcohol, but from embarrassment. I was convinced that with someone like him, my daughter would definitely be happy. Afterwards, my daughter met Leo's parents, and it turned out that they were also wonderful people. Hearing about it put my mind at ease. During the meeting of our families, my husband and I also met Leo's parents, and they were truly kind and had lovely smiles. Seeing them, I understood that if these people were his parents, it was no wonder what a wonderful and accomplished man like Leo had grown up. I was surprised when Ellie said she was getting married, but as things progress like this, it really hits me that it's true.
Yeah, that's true.
And to think she's getting married this year, it somehow feels nostalgic, doesn't it?
Huh? What do you mean?
Huh? I wonder if the meaning of what I said was difficult to convey. Since my husband asked me in that way, I was a bit confused. No, I thought it was a significant timing. About us. I wanted my husband to come up with the answer himself as much as possible, so I didn't say it clearly, but it seemed he hadn't noticed until now.
About us?
Oh, could it be that you forgot?
Sorry, what are you talking about?
This year, we're celebrating our 25th wedding anniversary, the silver wedding anniversary. My husband finally seemed to realize at this point. I was a bit shocked that he had completely forgotten. Was I the only one who remembered and felt happy about it? It made me a bit lonely to sense a difference in enthusiasm between my husband and me.
Sorry. Was it our silver wedding anniversary this year? Ellie's wedding is so joyous that it slipped my mind.
While my husband was trying to brush it off, the news of our daughter getting married was recent. It's been over 6 months since the year started, and our anniversary is just 2 months away. Normally, one would remember it's the silver wedding anniversary. I felt a sense of unease and confusion, but still. What should we do this year? I asked my husband. He responded,
What do we do for a silver wedding anniversary?
He asked me back. Considering he had forgotten, it would be appropriate for him to research and come up with suggestions himself out of apology. Maybe prepare a celebratory gift or go to a slightly expensive restaurant? I'm not sure, though. When I said that with a hint of coldness, my husband replied,
I see. Let's do that then.
Wait, are you deciding so easily?
Well, isn't that the classic or standard choice? It's more enjoyable to go for something safe rather than risk a failure.
Well, that might be true, but... I understood what my husband was saying, but I felt like he wanted to get this event and this conversation over with as soon as possible, which made me even more bewildered. I was a bit upset, so I thought about discussing it with our daughter, but I held back because it wouldn't be right to talk about my dissatisfaction with our married life during this joyful period of preparing for her own wedding. After that, I started to look at my husband with a slightly suspicious eye. I had been completely off guard, or rather, I hadn't paid much attention. But when I realized that my husband doesn't seem to cherish our married life, I couldn't help but wonder if his focus has shifted somewhere else. And gradually, various suspicious thoughts started to arise. Firstly, let's talk about his smartphone. My husband is a true analog person, and he used to leave his phone unlocked for the sake of simplicity and ease of use. Now he has added fingerprint authentication to his phone. Moreover, while he used to leave it lying around on the dining table or various places, recently he doesn't even let it out of his sight, not even when he goes to the restroom.
Is he cheating on you?
Huh? Cheating? Feeling overwhelmed with confusion, I invited my longtime friend Kinsley to lunch and poured out my thoughts to her. That's when Kinsley made that statement. But we've been married for 25 years already. There was a part of me that didn't want to believe it. However, Kinsley cut straight to the point and said,
"You're being naive. If you let your guard down like that, you can easily be discarded in no time. If you suspect something, immediately hire a private investigator to look into it. If he's having an affair, you can divorce him on the grounds of the other party's fault, and even receive compensation for emotional distress. You have to be proactive about this."
I see. Kinsley is originally divorced due to her ex-husband's affair, so every word she says carries credibility. Well, the difference between her and me is that she runs her own company and is actively working. However, I still thought it might be a good idea to try hiring a private investigator. I felt that if I didn't do it, I would just continue to feel unsettled, which was not good for my mental well-being. However, I immediately regretted having the investigation done. It turned out that my suspicions were correct, and my husband was indeed having an affair. The person he was involved with seems to be a subordinate who works in the same company. The age of the affair partner is 30, which is closer to my daughter's age than mine. I was deeply shocked to learn about my husband's affair. And the fact that he was involved with a woman 20 years younger than me made me feel disgusted. My feelings of love for my husband quickly faded away. I don't want to celebrate our silver wedding anniversary in such a state. How about, instead of forcefully celebrating our silver wedding anniversary, we use that money to increase the wedding gift for Ellie's wedding? I proposed that to my husband, and he instantly lit up with excitement.
"Wow, that's a great idea, let's do that,"
he said. I felt angry when I sensed that my husband found our 25th wedding anniversary celebration troublesome based on his attitude. However, I held myself back from expressing it because I also realized that my husband was having an affair. I thought that immediately getting a divorce would be unfair to our daughter and would put her in a difficult position. It would be sad if, with the wedding approaching, it became known that her parents were getting divorced due to an affair. In such a situation, it would be difficult to decide whether to invite both parents to the wedding. That's why I decided to keep it hidden for a while that I know about my husband's affair. I plan to wait until after our daughter's wedding is over to pursue a divorce. Until then, I have to endure and continue living with my husband, so it has been quite painful. But it's for the sake of our daughter, so I have no choice. I've decided to start working on considering the time after the divorce.
"Hey, then why don't you work at my place?"
Is that okay? I haven't worked for 25 years.
"But you used to work in an administrative position, and you have qualifications, right?"
Well, yes, but...
Don't worry, Claire. You've always been skilled and capable of anything. So you'll quickly adapt to working at my place.
With Kinsley's encouragement, I decided to start working. It was a great feeling to be back in the workplace after such a long time. Until now, my only interaction with society was through my mom and friends as a stay-at-home mom. But once my daughter became an adult, even that connection diminished. So being able to communicate with different people like this was enjoyable. It seemed like my husband had completely lost interest in me, so he didn't oppose when I mentioned going back to work. Creating an environment where I could talk to people other than my husband was really beneficial. And as I resumed work, I gradually rediscovered the joy of it. Come to think of it, even before getting married, I used to find work enjoyable. Kinsley smiled as she watched me come alive and do my job.
Mom, you have such a strong and determined look on your face.
Oh, really?
Yeah, starting work really gives you that professional look.
Well, maybe it does. Anyway, the wedding is coming up soon.
Yes, I'm really excited.
I'm looking forward to seeing you in your bridal attire, too. I tried to divert the conversation and cover up any signs of my impending divorce from my daughter. It seemed like she hadn't noticed anything, but amidst all that, something unbelievable happened. Huh? A business trip?
Yeah.
This week, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Sunday is Ellie's wedding day, you know.
I'll make sure to be back in time for the wedding.
Why'd you schedule a business trip at such a timing?
It's an order from the company. There's nothing I can do about it.
To my surprise, despite our daughter's upcoming wedding, my husband scheduled a business trip. But deep down, I knew it wasn't really a business trip. He was probably planning to go on a trip with his affair partner. I felt an overwhelming anger towards my husband. I wish he would at least consider ensuring the smooth progress of our daughter's wedding. I couldn't forgive him for prioritizing himself and his affair partner like that. Furious, I took advantage of my husband's deep sleep to discreetly use his thumb to unlock his smartphone with fingerprint recognition. I wanted to confirm his communication with the affair partner. And as I expected, I discovered that my husband and his affair partner were planning an illicit trip together. I discreetly took photos of their messages on my own smartphone and quietly closed my husband's phone.
Well, I'm off. I'll make sure to be back in time for the wedding.
With those words, my husband left early in the morning. I felt a lot of frustration, but I decided to start packing my belongings so that I could leave as soon as my daughter's wedding was over. I had already signed a new lease for a new apartment, preparing for a quick move. If my husband was going to be away from home, I should have timed my move earlier. But I decided to switch gears and focus on my daughter's wedding. And then, on the day of the wedding, as soon as I saw my daughter in her wedding dress in the waiting room, thoughts of my husband completely vanished from my mind. Ellie, you look absolutely beautiful.
Thank you, Mom.
I was deeply moved by my daughter's stunning appearance. Soon, the attendees started gathering at the wedding venue. Just before the wedding was about to begin, my phone rang. It was my husband calling. I lowered my face and pressed the answer button. Hello? Where are you? The wedding is about to start. Then my husband made a surprising statement.
I'm sorry, I just got into an accident. I don't think I'll be able to make it to Ellie's wedding.
Huh? An accident? Are you okay? I didn't care about my husband, but hearing about an accident still made me worry.
Oh, I'm fine. It was a minor collision and no one got hurt.
I see. That's good to hear.
But my car is damaged. I have to go through various procedures and police questioning, so I don't think I can make it to the wedding in time. Could you please give my regards to Ellie?
Receiving the call from my husband, who was on his way to the wedding, I happily responded. That's great. I didn't want you to come anyway.
Huh?
Because you weren't actually on a work trip, were you? You were going on an affair trip, right? I wonder if your trip with your 30-year-old subordinate Bella was enjoyable.
Why do you know all of that?
I know about your affair and where you were really going today. I was planning to keep quiet until Ellie's wedding was over, but if you can't make it, it works out well for me. Please don't come to the wedding. We can discuss the divorce proceedings through a lawyer at a later date.
This is...
My husband was absolutely mortified to learn that I knew everything. Well, the wedding is about to start, so I'll hang up now. I said that and hung up the phone. When relatives and our daughter asked why my husband wasn't there, I explained that he had been delayed due to an accident while on his way from the business trip. I decided to tell our daughter the truth after the wedding. She seemed a little sad, but she accepted the situation and adjusted her feelings. During the wedding, I explained to the guests that my husband couldn't attend. Leo's family understood the circumstances, which was a relief. And the wedding began successfully, and I enjoyed the wedding ceremony and reception. My daughter looked stunning, and it was an incredibly beautiful ceremony. When I read the letter of gratitude from my daughter to me, I couldn't help but cry. And the wedding ceremony of my daughter ended successfully. Then, in the dressing room, my daughter said to me,
Mom, you've been silently enduring all this time, haven't you? Even though it must have been hard for you.
Huh?
I knew about Dad's affair, too.
What? Is that true?
Yeah. Just recently, when I went to visit your home, I found the investigation results from a private detective in the drawer.
I see.
I can't forgive Dad either. Today wasn't really a business trip for him, right?
I told my daughter everything. She was very disappointed and said that deciding on a divorce was the right choice. She also informed the relatives in Leo's family who were in the waiting room about my husband's affair. She mentioned that I had endured and kept silent to prevent the wedding from being ruined. Everyone sympathized with me and offered words of comfort. They all expressed their contempt towards my husband and vowed not to have any further involvement with him. Afterwards, I discussed the divorce with my husband and our respective lawyers. Feeling betrayed after supporting the family as a homemaker for many years, I demanded a high amount of $80,000 in compensation from my husband. I also demanded $30,000 from his affair partner. My husband was furious at the high amount, but when I said I was willing to go to court to fight for it, he reluctantly agreed, expressing concerns about the legal proceedings. However, I still couldn't forgive my ex-husband, so I reported the affair to his workplace. As a result, his reputation plummeted. It seems that his involvement with a subordinate who was 20 years younger became a significant issue, and he ended up being demoted. It seems like he's facing a lot of coldness and judgment from those around him. He's working hard to make the settlement payments, but it's clear that he feels uneasy about it. In addition, as a result of this incident, he has been abandoned by all his relatives and even received a declaration of estrangement from our daughter. He appears to be utterly alone and lonely. It's all his own doing, and I can't help but think it serves him right. On the other hand, I have started living on my own and have thrown myself into work. I have become completely devoted to my job, and I have been entrusted with various responsibilities at the company, becoming a reliable presence. My daughter seems to be enjoying a happy newlywed life with her husband, and she occasionally visits my place to spend time together. I plan to continue working hard and warmly supporting my daughter as I move forward. It's scummy to prioritize an adulterous trip over your daughter's wedding. Well, to begin with, engaging in an affair is already despicable. Claire and Ellie, it's probably for the best that they ended ties with such a despicable man. In the end, it was a good thing that he didn't come to the wedding. From now on, I hope both of you can live happily as mother and daughter, cherishing your bond and enjoying each day. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to the channel. We look forward to seeing you in the next video.